You are born on January 26, 1891, in a narrow apartment on East 10th Street, Manhattan. The name on the paper is Francesco Castiglia. Nobody outside the block will ever pronounce it right. Your father lays bricks until his back folds like wet cardboard. Your mother measures flour by the gram because mistakes mean hunger. Italian voices fill the stairwell. Sicilian, Neapolitan. Everyone carries an ocean behind their eyes. You learn early that America is not a promise. It is a market. Everything has a price. In 1895, the docks around Ellis Island choke with immigrants. Ships unload men by the thousands. They arrive with trunks, saints' pictures, and debts. The city does not welcome them. It stacks them. You grow up between pushcarts and fistfights. Police patrol the avenues, but rarely the alleys. In those alleys, boys learn arithmetic the hard way. 3 apples stolen, 1 eaten, 2 sold. School lasts until the streets become louder than the classroom. Teachers talk about civics. Outside, men talk about territory. On Mulberry Street, the older boys run numbers and carry knives. You watch. Quiet. Always watching. In 1900, New York passes the Tenement House Act. Inspectors measure windows and air shafts. They never measure desperation. You understand something before most children do. Rules exist, but only for the people who obey them. You grow up fast because the street refuses to wait. By 13, you already understand the map of Lower Manhattan. Which cops take coins, which shopkeepers lock the back door, which alleys stay dark even at noon. Hunger sharpens your memory. The neighborhood boys form loose packs. Irish on one corner, Jews on another. Italians squeeze between them, fighting for scraps of pavement. Knuckles become language. In 1905, newspapers scream about the 5 Points gangs of New York. Police raids, arrests, names printed in ink that smells like cheap alcohol. To you, those headlines are not warnings. They are proof the system has holes. You stop being just another kid when you meet Charlie Luciano. He is younger than most street bosses, but already thinking like a banker. Cold eyes, quick math. He does not fight unless it pays. The two of you watch the same thing. Power. Not loud power, quiet power. The kind that makes policemen look away. Around 1907, you begin running small errands around Mulberry Street. Deliver a package, carry a message. Stand near a doorway and whistle if uniforms appear. No speeches, no loyalty talk, just work. Money comes in small coins, enough to eat meat once a week. Then you meet another young face orbiting the same streets. Meyer Lansky, not Italian, doesn't matter. His brain works like a calculator with legs. 3 boys from 3 different worlds. The city in 1909 is exploding past 4 million people. Factories roar along the East River. Every hour another ship arrives. More people means more markets. More markets mean more angles. You begin to see the pattern forming. Crime is not chaos. It is organization waiting to happen. You stop thinking like a boy somewhere around 18. The streets are no longer a playground. They are inventory. Every corner sells something. Protection, liquor, cards, information. You start noticing the inefficiency. Too many small crews, too much noise, too many idiots chasing pennies. Then history tilts the table. On January 16th, 1920, the prohibition in the United States comes into force under the 18th Amendment. Overnight, the government turns whiskey into contraband. The demand stays. The supply disappears. To you, that looks like a printing press. Trucks begin moving at night across the Hudson. Canadian liquor flows through New York Harbor like a second tide. Speakeasies bloom behind barber shops and grocery stores. The city drinks more than ever. You are not the loudest man in the room. That becomes your advantage. While others chase shipments with guns, you chase permissions. You learn the faces in City Hall, the quiet envelopes, the dinners where deals are spoken without verbs. By 1922, the name Arnold Rothstein carries weight across Manhattan. Banker of gamblers, financier of bootleggers. You study him the way a clerk studies ledgers. Money first, violence only when accounting fails. You refine the skill nobody sees. Conversation, a calm voice across a table. You make policemen comfortable, judges curious, politicians pragmatic. Bootlegging is not about trucks. It is about silence. And you are becoming very good at buying it. You stop thinking like a boy somewhere around 18. The streets are no longer a playground. They are inventory. Every corner sells something. Protection, liquor, cards, information. You start noticing the inefficiency. Too many small crews. Too much noise. Too many idiots chasing pennies. Then history tilts the table. On January 16th, 1920, the prohibition in the United States comes into force under the 18th Amendment. Overnight, the government turns whiskey into contraband. The demand stays, the supply disappears. To you, that looks like a printing press. Trucks begin moving at night across the Hudson. Canadian liquor flows through New York Harbor like a second tide. Speakeasies bloom behind barber shops and grocery stores. The city drinks more than ever. You are not the loudest man in the room. That becomes your advantage. While others chase shipments with guns, you chase permissions. You learn the faces in City Hall, the quiet envelopes, the dinners where deals are spoken without verbs. By 1922, the name Arnold Rothstein carries weight across Manhattan. Banker of gamblers, financier of bootleggers. You study him the way a clerk studies ledgers. Money first, violence only when accounting fails. You refine the skill nobody sees. Conversation, a calm voice across the table. You make policemen comfortable, judges curious, politicians pragmatic. Bootlegging is not about trucks. It is about silence. And you are becoming very good at buying it. Power changes your daily routine. You wake up later. You eat better. Your suit stops smelling like cigarette smoke from cheap backrooms. Tailors on Fifth Avenue know your measurements by memory. Politicians know your number by heart. After Charles Lucky Luciano goes to prison in 1936 under the prosecution of Thomas E. Dewey, someone has to keep the machine balanced. You become that weight, not a dictator, something smoother. You sit at tables where judges pretend not to see you. Envelopes move across linen tablecloths. Elections tilt quietly in certain districts of New York City. Labor unions vote the right way when it matters. During World War II, the government suddenly remembers the docks exist. German submarines prowl the Atlantic in 1942. Sabotage becomes a word whispered around New York Harbor. The Navy needs control of the waterfront. You already have it. Through intermediaries and deniable conversations, the state and the underworld shake hands without witnesses. The arrangement becomes known later as Operation Underworld. Ships load safely. Piers stay quiet. In return, certain prisoners receive consideration. Certain investigations move slower. By the late 1940s, newspapers call you the Prime Minister of the Underworld. Not the loudest boss, the one who speaks with City Hall. You understand something important at the top. Real power is invisible, but invisibility never lasts forever. The peak feels stable. That is how traps work. By the early 1950s, your name moves too easily through police files. Senators say it in hearings. Reporters write it in thick black ink. The quiet system you built begins attracting sunlight. Then Washington decides to look. In 1950, the Kefauver hearings start crawling across the country. Televised. Senators asking questions about gambling, unions, rackets. The cameras are new. The public is fascinated. You sit there in a gray suit while microphones lean toward your mouth like insects. You answer carefully. Memory becomes selective. Words become smaller. Still, the spectacle changes something. Americans now know the Mafia has structure. A year later, the ground moves again. On May 2nd, 1957, outside a restaurant on Central Park West, a gunman steps from the sidewalk. Shots tear through the air. One bullet grazes your head. The shooter is Vincent Giganti, acting under orders from Vito Genovese. You survive. Blood runs down your collar while sirens close in. Reporters photograph the bandage wrapped around your skull. You refuse to name the man who ordered it. That silence cost you the throne. In 1957, Genovese consolidates control of the family that will later carry his name. The organization keeps moving, but you step sideways out of the center. You are still alive. But the era where you quietly ran the machine is already ending. Time changes the rules faster than men can. By the late 1950s, the old balance is cracking. Too many bosses, too many ambitions, too many federal eyes watching the board. Then the system makes a mistake. In November 1957, dozens of mob leaders gather in the quiet town of Appalachian, a meeting meant to settle business across families. Cars with out-of-state plates, expensive suits in a rural neighborhood. Police grow curious. The gathering explodes into panic when state troopers surround the area. Men scatter through woods and backyards. Reporters arrive within hours. Names hit the front pages. The Appalachian meeting becomes proof the newspapers needed. America finally sees the shape of the organization. The government responds with new weapons. Federal investigators start building cases using surveillance, tax laws, and informants. By the early 1960s, a new agency head appears. J. Edgar Hoover. For decades, Hoover pretended the Mafia barely existed. After Appalachian, pretending becomes impossible. Meanwhile, the younger men are rougher, louder, less patient with politics. They believe fear works faster than conversation. You watch it happen from restaurants and quiet apartments across Manhattan. The machine you helped refine is still running, but it is no longer subtle. The age of quiet operators is fading. Age does not arrive dramatically. It creeps in through routine. By the 1960s, you are no longer chased by police sirens. The younger men carry that burden now. You move slower through restaurants and clubs across Manhattan. Waiters recognize you. Politicians still shake your hand, though fewer cameras are present. Your power now is memory. You remember the docks before Prohibition in the United States turned alcohol into currency. You remember the old bosses before Charles Lucky Luciano replaced medieval hierarchy with corporate structure in 1931. You remember when influence could be negotiated instead of enforced. The city keeps growing louder around you. Federal pressure expands through the decade. Informants appear. Prosecutors start building cases that take years instead of weeks. The world that once relied on envelopes and handshakes begins drowning in microphones. Then time closes the account. On February 18th, 1973, you sit at lunch inside Tony's restaurant. The meal is ordinary. Conversation quiet. No gunshots, no sirens, no drama. Your heart stops at the table. You are 82. No empire collapses that day. No gang war erupts. The machine you helped build keeps running under other names, other bosses. But one type of operator disappears with you, the quiet one, the man who ruled the underworld without ever needing to shout.